Hello, we're now going to do a very different program, and it is not that easy, so we need to go a bit slower with it maybe. Here's this one. Write a program to log into a system. The user must first enter their username and be asked until they enter the correct username. So we're going to let the user enter their username as often as they want until they get the correct username. Then once the username is entered, they'll be asked to enter a password. They have a maximum of 3 attempts, so only 3 times can they enter the password. If the correct information is entered, then we should have a message saying welcome and the username. So if they get the username and their password correct, we'll say welcome and whatever the username is. If they get the password wrong 3 times, then a message will be displayed, access denied. Right, so let's go and look at what we can do. Right, before we go and look at what we can do, what are the inputs? Obviously the user is going to have a username and a password to input. We have to set those beforehand, because otherwise we don't know what to compare it to. So I'm going to use these 2 variables, set them as those. Username is correct, password secret 7. Let's just say those are the usernames and the password, or we can call this Joe. Anyway, username, password, give it anything we want. In double inverted commas, these are 2 variables. Now we have to let the user enter the username as often as they want. So we don't know how many times that's going to be, so therefore we not use a for loop, we use a while loop. It could be 100 times before they actually enter the correct username, or it could be 2 times. So I'm going to use a while loop, and I'm going to use like what I call a Boolean flag, or just a variable that will change when they get it right. But I have to set it to false beforehand. Now a Boolean variable is a variable that can only have 2 values, true or false, and take note it has to be a capital F for false and a capital T for true. So we set our Boolean flag to false, or Boolean variable to false, and while that variable called found, I just called it found, while that found equals false, we're going to ask them to enter their name, and if it's correct we'll set it to true. So while found equals false, we have 2 equal signs there because it's a question. Is found equal false? The processor looks at this line and says, well, it's asking a question. Actually, is found equal false? If it is, then we'll go ahead and do the next line, which is here. Well, why do I know it's false? Because I set it to false beforehand. If I had not set it to false beforehand, then it definitely wouldn't, would be a bit of a problem. The processor might not even go to this line. So I have to set it false beforehand. And while found is false, we have a variable which will hold the username that the user types in an input statement. We know that returns a string, and I've got a nice little space over there so that there's a space for the user to type. It doesn't look messy. And then we ask if answer equals this, Joe, it's got to be not that, username. If the answer equals to the username which we set up top here, okay, if I use anything else, then obviously that wouldn't work. And then the colon means that we have to indent this line. Take note of these 2 indentations, because those 2 are part of the while loop. This is only for this if statement. So if the answer is equal to username, the processor will be checking. That's why we have 2 equal signs there. If that answer that the user typed in, if it's equal to the username, then we set found equal to true. Take note how the difference is between using two equal signs and one. We're actually setting our variable called found equal to true. And we don't put any inverted commas around true or false. These are Boolean variables. Very useful in cases like these. Right, so that's a simple while loop, actually. And this is going to continue until found equals true. And then the loop will stop. Because while it is false, it's going to ask for a name and check if the username is correct. And take note, username is this variable up there. Right, moving down. Now, once we've got the username right, we're going to move on to the password. Now, for the password, the user has only got 3 times to enter the correct password. So, we're going to have to use a counter to count up to 3. Starting at 0, we set our counter to 0. I'm setting our Boolean flag to false. Yes, I can use it again here. Setting my Boolean variable to false. Found equals false. I'm having a counter that's going to count to 2 actually. 0, 1, 2. Because we're going to check to see if count is less than 3. So it's starting at 0. Then I'm going to say while count is less than 3 and found equals false. These two conditions must apply. That and means both must be true for all of this to happen. That and is very important. If it's all there, then the logic is incorrect. The program will still run, but you won't get the right result. That and means that both that condition, which is in brackets, and this condition, which is in brackets, must be true. Now we know that found equals false is true. Okay, it's asking is found equal to 2 equal signs if it's false. And we also need to make sure that count is less than 3. Well, we set count to 0. Good. So we're good to go. So let's go. First of all, we get a variable that we make up. I use the word reply, is equal to our input statement. We're asking the user to enter a password, and this password is going to be stored in the variable called reply as a string. Now we're asking if reply equals password. Is the reply equal to the password? Now we set the password at secret 7 there, but we're not worried about that. Our code is just asking if reply is equal to password. Then we'll set found equals to true. Now, as soon as found equals to true, guess what will happen? The else part won't happen. The process will go up here and check, oh, found equals true. So then it'll stop and go over here and print access allowed or welcome. And obviously we need to add the username. Okay, because there's our username. Right, we're back over here. So that's if they get it right the first time. If they don't get it right, then we add a count equals count plus 1. So the second time, then count will be 1. Then the processor will go back up here and say, oh, is count less than 3? Yes, it's 1. And found equals false. Yes, because this if statement didn't happen the last time. We got it wrong the first time. Let's say if it got it wrong the first time, okay? So count will now be 1. That's our second run. Then we get a reply again from the user. And then we ask, is reply equal to password? If it's not, then the else will happen. Count will then be 2. So the process will zoom up over here and say, is count less than 3? Yes, it is. Is found equal false? Yes, it is. And then we have another choice. Count is now 2. 0, 1, 2. This is our third chance. Enter the password. Is reply equal to password? If it's no, then else will happen. Count will now be 3. And then we'll go up there. And we'll see, oh, count is not less than 3, so that statement is false. Found is still false, but count is now 3, which is not less than 3, so the process is going to stop right there, zoom on down over here, and say, is found true? No, it's false, so therefore the else part over here will then display that access is denied. So that is how that little program works. And I hope, if you don't understand, just go through it again, and we'll see you on the next one.